My name's Joff, and I lead a community called Another Way. And as part of what we do, we run a thing called CRES in the cathedral. I'm employed by the cathedral to run this community. Um, and as part of our CRES service, which is the Cornish for Peace, we always tell a story of a saint. And we love these stories. I personally love these stories. And I've gone on a quest to discover all the kind of forgotten stories of the saints, starting off kind of in this land and then moving out to all over the UK, but then there's all over the world now, just finding these amazing stories of saints and really just contemplating what they mean for us, and how people that kind of first started Christianity, especially here, how they kind of understood the story of Jesus and what it meant for them, and especially them and their relationship with the earth. And so I'm going to tell you the story of St. Cuthbert, who's one of my favorite monks. I just went up to visit Lindisfarne in November. And I'm going to, yeah. So I'm sorry if there's people that know loads about St. Cuthbert and you might know this story better than I do. Um, but I will tell you this story anyway, and maybe just sit and enjoy it. And if you haven't come across kind of old saint stories before, they are kind of often quite strange. But I think the most important thing is not to ask whether it was true or not. I feel that's the kind of, yeah, what most people say. So just sit back and just listen to this story. Okay, it should be about 5 minutes. So if you didn't know, St. Cuthbert was a monk, a bishop, and a hermit from Lindisfarne in Northumbria. Cuthbert, known affectionately to many as Cuddy, was known for being a reluctant leader and a peacemaker. He famously became the Bishop of Lindisfarne in Northumbria during the 7th century, but after being more or less dragged into the role of bishop on the extremely remote and tidal island, he eventually grew tired of everyone turning up and asking things of him. So he found an even smaller island that was even further off the mainland to go and have a hermitage and be on his own. And this was called St. Cuthbert's Isle. Now, I want to share with you my favourite story of St. Cuthbert. So St. Cuthbert from here on will be called Cuddy. And yes, the ducks were named after him. He was known often for wandering off to forgotten villages in the north of England, all the neglected parts of the UK, always making sure that no one would be left out or forgotten and that everyone could have access to the gospel, but also that he could go and care for people. One day, Cuddy set out on a journey to a far off, remote village in the north of England to share the good news of Jesus and to help in any way that he could. And on this particular day, he decided that he would take with him a young pupil. But as you do, when you take a young pupil on an adventure with you, he forgot to mention that they would be fasting for the entire journey. Meaning, not only would they be not eating on the way, but they didn't leave with any food at all, nothing with them. After a few days, they arrived at a local farm where a kind farmer offered them something to eat. But to the pupil's horror, Cuddy politely declined. As the days went on, the young pupil began to worry, thinking so much about his stomach that was hurting and hurting and hurting. And eventually he turned to Cuddy and said, "Cuddy, where will we find food?" "My son," Cuddy replied, "why do you not have faith that God will provide?" With that, Cuddy stretched out his arms and began to pray silently. The boy looked at him, but out the corner of his eye, he noticed something above, something moving, something that had taken notice of Cuddy, the monk, silent with his arms in the air, praying. The young boy looked up and he saw the most beautiful eagle soaring over Cuddy's head, gliding in circles and watching them so eagerly. Cuddy continued to pray, seemingly unaware of this beautiful, majestic bird above him. The boy was transfixed by both the silent monk and the majestic eagle, Then suddenly the eagle dived down towards a nearby river and pulled out a salmon. As Cuddy lowered his arms, the eagle flew over to them and dropped the fish at Cuddy's feet. The boy, filled with delight and relief, ran over and picked up the fish. But Cuddy, in absolute disarray, said, "What have you done? Why have you robbed our host of its food?" And with that, Cuddy walked over, took the salmon from the boy, pulled out a knife, and cut the fish in half, giving one half back to the boy and taking the other half over to the eagle. Then they continued on their way, leaving the eagle to enjoy its dinner in peace. As they reached a nearby village, Cuddy offered the remaining half of the fish to a local family, asking them to cook it and share it among themselves and his young pupil. And while everyone else ate, Cuddy, continuing to fast, pulled out his copy of John's Gospel and began to read aloud, explaining that the symbol of the Gospel of John is the eagle.